Hi everybody, Joe Mastalia back at you here from Di Pasquale Salon Systems, ready to introduce our next presenter manufacturer, Babe Hair Extensions.
Hey there, my name is Courtney Whitford, National Educator for Babe Hair Extensions, and we are so excited to be part of the first ever Di Pasquale Salon Systems Virtual Hair Show. Are you excited? We're excited as well. I wanted to introduce you to Babe Hair Extensions and all the things that we are capable of doing with hair transformations to the smallest of fixes with extensions. Babe Hair Extensions offers a variety of colors. Did you know that we have over 40 colors in our swatch ring? That's right, we have so many options for so many different types of transformations and color options. We're also handcrafted and ethically sourced, providing hair solutions to any possible need behind the chair. People with thinning hair or thick hair, needing long hair or short hair, it doesn't matter, we have a solution for everything. I wanted to introduce you to Ashley. She's our model today. And on her, we're going to be doing a couple of different little demos to show you what our extensions are capable of doing. The first method that I'd like to introduce you to is our tape-in method. It is one of the easiest methods to get started with. So if you're a little bit nervous behind the chair of offering an extension method, this is a great one to start with. Our tape-ins are made with a medical grade adhesive. So they're designed to stick in the hair very, very well. And we have two different options for our tape-ins. We have our original replacement tape, which is a white tabbed replacement tape. This offers a solid 6 to 8 week hold in the hair. We also offer an express tape option, which has little brown tabs on it. And this offers a 4 to 6 week hold in the hair. So you have plenty of options for everybody. Whether they need move-ups quicker or later, doesn't matter, we have you covered. With our tape-ins, we get really, really quick coverage, and it takes about an hour to install a full head. That's it, 1 hour, and you've got a whole transformation. I'd like to show you just a quick application and what the possibilities with tape-ins would be. It's so simple and easy to install, and the only thing you really need are your fingers. So we're going to part my model, Ashley, just in the center back of her head. Now with tape-ins, these tape-ins go up and down very easily, like this. They're not as flexible side to side, so when you're installing them, you want a nice, clean, horizontal section, and you're going to place the tape-in just off of the part line, just so it doesn't rub too close to the scalp. So we're going to start with one of our tape-ins, and this one has our white tabs on it, so this is our original replacement tape. We're simply going to peel off the tabs. Now, this adhesive is sticky. It is a tape, so you want to be cautious to not touch the tape with your fingers. We're then going to just place this tape in, like I said, just off of the part line, about a 1/4 inch away, and place it down. Now we can use our fingers to just press that into the hair. From there, you will just simply lift your tape-in up. It will pick up the exact amount of hair that you need in your section, so don't add anything to it and don't take anything away from it. And then we'll place our bottom weft right underneath. So again, simply removing your white tabs, being careful not to touch that adhesive. We're simply going to line up our bottom and our top weft together and sandwich them together. Once you have your nice sandwich, you're just going to press that real nice and tight so it stays in her head. And you can see how thick that coverage is with the sandwiched tape section. I also want to show you a single-sided option. So instead of placing another tape-in weft underneath your top weft and making it a full sandwich of tape, you can actually place a little piece of tape underneath as your bottom weft, and it's a much thinner application. So think about those people in your chair that maybe need the coverage but can't support as much weight as a full 2 pieces of tape. You're going to want to maybe use a single-sided option instead because it's going to be lighter weight in the hair. So for this piece of tape, I've also chosen to use our Express tape. So it's a little bit of a lighter hold. It will hold for about 4 to 6 weeks as opposed to our 6 to 8 week replacement tape option. Okay, so I'm choosing to use this one instead for our single-sided application. And we're going to place this tape in right next to, but not right on top of, our first tape. So we want to leave just a little bit of space in our tape-ins as we're applying, and we would normally brick lay them up the head so all of those spaces and gaps get closed off. But we want just a little bit of wiggle room in there. That way, as these grow out, they don't tangle and mat with each other. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to just simply press that down in the hair. Lifting that tape in, we're just going to scoop out any hair that doesn't belong in there. Remember, we're not going to take anything out of it or put anything in it, and we're just going to drape that across the top of the head. Then we're going to use our single-sided tape. Our single-sided tape comes in this package, and it's clear pieces of tape, which I know are probably a little hard to see right now, but these little clear pieces of tape will act as your bottom weft. So we're simply going to take one of these off of our backing card. Again, this is an adhesive, so we want to be very careful to touch it as little as possible. We're simply going to line it up with our tape in. Bring that to 0 degree. Everything we do is going to be at a 0 degree placement, so it offers the most flexibility. And just give that a nice, good press. Okay? So now you can see the difference between a sandwich tape-in option, which is much thicker and fuller, and our single-sided tape option, which is much more of like a ribbon of color in the hair. Check out this before and after photo. You can see with this model, she had a lot of density around the root area, but not so much at her ends. Tape-ins are such a quick and easy method to introduce to your clients to fill in their hair as needed. Another category of extensions that we love so much is our sewn-in weft category. Our sewn-in weft category has 3 major players in it. The first is our hand-tied hair. This hand-tied hair is, however, extremely fragile at the bonded area, and you'll notice there are little strings on the end of them. Remember, you never want to cut these strings because it can unravel the banded area. So as you're applying these to your client, you want to maybe tuck these strings underneath and sew them in that way. That way they don't bother the strings and nothing is cut. Should you decide to cut this weft, it will unravel. So we always recommend folding it instead. This option of hand-tied weft comes with 3 10-inch wefts and 2 5-inch wefts. So you will need 2 or 3 boxes if you have somebody with a more medium to thicker density hair to cover all of the places. Our second category of weft is our machine sewn hair. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably already heard about machine sewn hair. It is the thickest amount of hair for the weft itself. Now, this is just a small portion of one long 36-inch long weft. So these come with a lot of length, and they are triple stacked. So what that simply means is there are 3 individual wefts that are then sewn together to create this machine sewn weft. The cool part about the machine sewn weft is that you can cut it with no unraveling of the hair. So simply measure out however much you need on your client, cut the weft, and then go ahead and sew it in. Another great part about the machine sewn weft is its ability to be deconstructed. So you can simply open up the weft with a pair of stork shears or a seam ripper, and you can see one individual weft comes away from the other 2 that are left inside. This is a great option for those of you who maybe want to mix and match your colors as you're applying your extensions. Our last category of sewn-in weft is our newest category, which is our hybrid weft. So the way I like to think about it is if a hand-tied piece of hair had a love affair with the machine sewn weft, you have the hybrid baby. So this is a great weft because it can be cut, but it is so thin and flexible, much like the hand-tied piece of hair. So it is layerable. This also comes in one long 36-inch long weft that you can just measure out and cut as needed. However, for maximum fullness and density, you will want to layer that so you get a thicker wall of hair. So I love this option for a lot of people. This suits most everybody pretty well, from fine hair to thick hair. I will recommend that if you want to do a thicker haired client, the machine weft or your hybrid weft would be your go-to. The great thing about sewn-in weft also is that you can make these huge transformations. Go ahead and check out this before and after photo that we have presented to you. You can see how much length that she's able to grab from having these sewn-in wefts. Most extension methods are not going to give you quite as much coverage and density as what our sewn-in weft category will do. So this is a great option for people that do need a lot more thickness and a lot more length. Go ahead and push the envelope with this one just a little. The last category that I want to talk about on today's virtual hair show is the fusion category, and it is a personal favorite of mine because the possibilities are endless. So think about the people that you already have in your chair. What are their primary concerns? A lot of times, as stylists, we might hear the words, I don't like my hair because it's too thin, or I don't like that my hair is limp and it doesn't really hold as much of a style, or I just wish the sides of my hair would grow, or maybe if we could do something with the top of my head that disguised a little bit of the thinness, that would be so great. And otherwise, extensions really can't live up in these tighter spaces on top of the head or closer to the hairline, but our fusion category sure can. So our fusions are made with a keratin tip, and we give you a lot of that keratin tip so you can customize the bond however you want to customize it. So if you have somebody with thicker or coarser hair, you can apply this extension as is in the hair. If you have somebody with finer hair, however, you may want to use our bond cutters and cut this extension down. You'll notice there's just a small little crack in the middle of each fusion extension, and that is exactly half of the extension. So you can just simply use your bond cutters and cut the fusion in half. And this makes it a much thinner application for people that need just a little less weight in the hair. But you can go even further than that. We can take this little baby bond and make it even smaller by trimming the top of it off. So now we've got a much smaller bond that can fit in a tighter space, maybe around the hairline. But wait, there's more. You can actually take this and cut it again into what we like to call micro bonds. These little tiny bonds that can live on places like the top of the head or at the nape of the neck where there's not as much density there, or even the sides of the hair or the bang area. So these little tiny micro bonds can go where no extension has gone before. So this is part of the reason I love our fusion category so much. And I'd like to take a minute to demonstrate a couple of these options on our model Ashley. So I've already prepared one side of her head, and we'll show that to you in just a moment. And then I'm going to just do a row on the other side of her head where you can see the differences in the sizes of the bonds. So on our model Ashley, we've done one full side of her head. And you can see a couple of the differences between the sizes of the bonds. As we work towards the front of her head, towards her face, these bonds get just a little bit smaller to hide in the natural hair. You're still going to leave a little bit of a perimeter so her hair can cover over those bonds so they cannot be seen. But we get a lot closer than most extensions can live. Now on the other side of my model Ashley, we're going to continue doing one more row of these fusion extensions. So you can see, again, on this side, I've already placed a plethora of extensions. So Ashley was growing out a side shave. So she had a lot of this hair right here that was about this long, so just a couple of inches. So we're using our fusion extensions to elongate that area, but also we're getting really, really close to the hairline so it fills in everything that it needs to fill in without looking gappy in the front or the back, okay? So you can see, again, here's some of this side shave. The hair itself is not very long at all. So we're going to be taking our fusion extensions and elongating that down so she has a really fun style. So to do this, again, I'm going to want to take a full bond and cut it down to the size that I need. And for this demonstration, I will be showing you those little tiny micro bonds, third bonds, and half bonds, so you can see the size differences in all of them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut down the fusion extension to the size that we need. Now, the smaller the bond gets, the smaller your section will also get. So if you're using a full bond, your section will be a full bond section. If you're using a half bond, you're going to take a little bit of that hair away. With a micro bond, we're going to be using very, very small amounts of hair. So the first thing we're going to do is cut this down into our micro bond. So we're going to start by cutting the top off and then into 4 pieces across the extension. Okay, so now we have our 4 little teeny tiny pieces, and we're gonna place those right in this section, right at the front of her head. So I'm going to use my little quick pick hair parter. I love this little tool because it helps me not have to pick up a comb and put it back down all the time. I just part the hair with it and it just stays right on my finger. So it's really, really convenient. So we're going to take my little quick pick and we're going to choose a section of hair that is equal in density to the micro bond that I have chosen. And then we're going to use our protective disc. You always want to use a protective disc as you're applying fusion extensions. This will save the heat from touching the scalp on your client. You can notice that there's a horizontal line across the top. That line is going to be at the part line of the client. And there's also 2 vertical lines that the hair can fit inside of. You'll know you have too much hair if the hair does not fit nicely in between the 2 vertical lines. So we're just going to place this little disc in here. And here's the fun part of it about fusion extensions. You get to break some rules. So with micro bonds, you can place those as close to the scalp as you want or as off base as you'd like. So for Ashley, we're going to actually move this protective disc up just a little bit further so these little tiny bonds are much closer to her scalp. Are you able to reach the connector? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to take our piece of hair, lay the extension right on top, and I like to lay the extension on top because then I can see where it's melting. We're going to just quickly melt that extension down, tap it, and roll it into place. If it needs a little bit more heat, you're welcome to do that too. So here we have one little baby micro bond. Okay, so you can see how easily it's hidden in the hairstyle. It doesn't need a lot of hair to cover over, and all of this hair coming down will cover right over top of it. So again, if I wanted to place this in the bang area, if I wanted to place it on the top of the head, perfectly fine. So I'm going to place a couple more right next to it. So again, taking that piece of hair, laying it right on top of the natural hair so you can see how it's melting. And again, you can get as close to the scalp as you want, or you can leave it at an off-base placement. Whatever you decide for your client is totally fine. We're going to just apply a little bit of heat on this melting connector right over top of that bond. Press that bond onto the hair and roll it around, almost like a Band-Aid. So you're gonna wrap it right around the hair. Now these little microbonds will live in her hair for about 4 to 6 weeks before a lot of times they just naturally shed, or they can be removed with our bond remover. So I'll place one more of those little microbonds and then we'll move on to our third bonds. So keep in mind, as I'm applying these extensions, who this extension would be good for in your clientele. So do you have people that are thinning hair? Do you have people that are experiencing hair loss? People that are growing their hair back, or having their hair grown out from a side shave, or even an illness. This is such a great option to give them just a little bit more confidence in their hairstyle, giving them just a little bit more excitement to their life. At the end of the day, we really just want to uplift our clients and make them feel as good as possible. So this is such a great way to do so. So here we have little tiny microbonds. So now I want to show you the next size up with our third bonds. Oops. Maybe hold that. So again, we are going to be taking a full bond. Thank you, ma'am. And we're gonna just cut a little bit off of the top again. I like to do this just so there's not too much keratin, and it keeps it, again, a little bit more hidden in the hairstyle. So instead of cutting this piece into 4 little pieces, we're gonna cut it into 3 equal pieces. Okay, so now we have 3 equal pieces. So you can see it's gonna be a little bit larger. It's not gonna be quite as invisible as our little baby bonds were, our micro bonds. Okay, we're gonna still take our protective disc. We always wanna use the protective disc. We're gonna go right next to these bonds. And now that we're moving the size up a little bit, we're also going to take a little bit more hair. Remember that the section of the hair that you're working with has to be equal in density to the extension that you're working with. We're gonna put that protective disc in. Now these ones we definitely wanna make sure that we are off base with, okay? So most of your extensions are gonna be off base. The micro bonds are the only ones that you can kind of get away with a little bit more on base or creative placement. So now we're going to lay this extension right on top of the hair. You want the top of the extension at the bottom of the circle for that nice off-base placement. We're going to do just a little bit of heat to melt this down. Tap it and then wrap it all the way around the hair. Let me actually have that again. Thank you. So if it doesn't melt all the way the first time, just hit it with a tiny bit more heat. And then wrap it. Okay, so now you can see that this is just a little bit bigger than what these are, okay? I told you just this big. So I'll do 2 more of those, and then we'll go on to half bonds, and you can see the size difference in those as well. There's a lot of opportunity with these fusion extensions because they are so customizable. You can mix and match your colors. So if you wanted to do a half bond of one color and a half bond of another color and meld them together, you certainly can. You can do a full head application with these. You can do a partial head application just like we're doing with Ashley. So many possibilities. And just one more extension. Placing that right on top, melting it down. Tapping it and rolling it right into place. Okay, so now you have your little tiny ones and your third ones. So you can see that there's just a little bit of a size difference there. Now let's just do half bonds so you can see the full spectrum. So again, our section size will change just a little bit more. It will get just a little bit bigger because we're doing more hair on our extension. And we're going to take our extension, and remember there's this little line down the middle, and we're just going to cut it right down that little line, and that's exactly half of the extension. Thank you. Okay, so now we have a half bond, so much bigger. We're going to lay that right on the hair. 0 degree off base placement. Melt this down. Now our last two melted down really quickly and easily. This one's going to take just a little bit more heat to melt down because the bond itself is just a little bit bigger. So when you melt it down, you want to see it kind of fan out just a little bit, and that's how you know it's ready. So now you can see the bond difference size between all three of these. You have your little micro bonds here, you have your third bonds here, and now you have a half bond right here. So it's a lot more keratin that is wrapped around the hair. And one last one. Just melting this right down. Again, we're going to require just a little bit more heat because it is a little bit thicker of a bond compared to the last two. Wrapping that right around there. Now these half bonds are actually going to live in the hair more like anywhere between 2 and 4 months. Okay, so the more keratin you have that is placed into the hair, the longer it can last in the hair. The less keratin you have, the more micro these bonds get, the less time in the hair that you will also get. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're deciding the type and placement for these extensions. Isn't she lovely? So now, as we bring her hair down and cover over, you can see that all of her hair covers over just nicely. She can still pull her hair back with no extensions showing. Thanks, Ashley. So once again, we have such an amazing promotion for you through DePasquale Salon Systems. We're offering 25% off of our Deluxe Kit as well, which is such a great investment because the Deluxe Kit gives you everything that you need for all the methods: tape, beaded, fusion, and sewn-in weft. So if you're ready to get started with extensions, don't miss out on this amazing promotion. So take a look at this before and after photo because this is exactly what we're talking about when it comes to transformations for your clients. This lady had a condition called trichotillomania. Maybe you've heard of it. It's where you're anxious and you pick out the hair around your head. And for her, she just kind of felt like there was something possibly better. Along the way, she met somebody that was able to microbond her hair and just look amazing. And just look how amazing these results are. By being able to take those really tiny microbonds, you're able to fix a large area of hair that otherwise you wouldn't be able to fix. So these are some of the amazing transformations that we like to offer through hair extensions. So here you can see the differences in the size of the bonds. So these three here are our littlest microbonds. Next to them are three of our third bonds. And then we have our half bonds. So you can see the amount of keratin is finer to thicker as we work our way up into a fuller bond. So again, this is a great option for people that want to get a little bit closer to the hairline. These little tiny bonds are going to be very well hidden in the hairstyle. You need just a little bit amount of hair to cover over them. We want to say a huge thank you to Di Pasquale Salon Systems for hosting this virtual event, the first ever virtual event. We are so honored as a company to be part of this amazing opportunity.